Recently, as you guys know, I was focusing more on European issues. I was talking about the European Union with Article 13, Article 11. I spoke a little bit about UKIP, and I was ignoring what happens in America. And I have a lot of Amerikansky as my subscribers, and I think I do need to, owe it to them to talk about issues that are important to them. So I woke up this morning and I was like, okay, let's read the news to see what happens in America. Let's see if there's anything important, right? And I'm scrolling through the articles and I'm going like, Jesus fucking Christ, I as an atheist started crossing myself when I saw the stupidity that's emanating. Like, any person that has two neurons to create a synapse is just bewildered by the stupidity in the news when it comes to the Supreme Court and Kavanaugh. It is just so bizarre, and I think Americans probably don't get it because they have been eased into it, right? Like, it's the process of insanity is gradual, so that if you're in it, if you're in that news cycle, you just don't understand how retarded it sounds for normal people. But when it's someone that just didn't look at it for a single second and is looking at it now when it's already to the advanced stages of insanity, it is something that makes you cross yourself. So let me explain it for European people as well, because again, probably a lot of you guys don't even know who Kavanaugh is. But before we can get into that, I need to explain to you the importance of the Supreme Court in the United States. So there was a couple of YouTube videos with a couple of progressives from the American Democratic Party that were saying that they do view the Supreme Court as a very important asset. Like, they want to put as many judges that have a progressive leaning in the Supreme Court in order to interpret the American Constitution from a progressive lens. Let me give you an example what this means, and you will see just how important it is for an ideology to have the Supreme Court. Take, for instance, the case of gay marriage in the United States. Now, this is very interesting because gay marriage was something that was passing democratically from state to state. Basically, it was put up to a vote and people were voting, yes, we're fine with gay marriage. And the democratic process was working. Like, many states were starting to be okay with gay marriage. A little bit more controversy during the South. It was a little bit of an iffy subject, but I am fully confident that within time, more and more states would have voted for gay marriage. However, the progressives wanted to accelerate this. They weren't happy that it's taking too slow. So what they did is they basically asked the Supreme Court to interpret the Constitution. And the Supreme Court, right, the judges say, no, of course the Constitution allows for gay marriage. It was being interpreted in a wrong way for hundreds of years, but clearly the founding fathers of the United States are okay with gay marriage, and thus not allowing gay marriage is unconstitutional. So now they forced the entire United States, they forced all of the federal states to adopt gay marriage, regardless if they have voted on it or not. Right? So you can see the power that the judges on the Supreme Court have, because more conservative judges would have said, oh, of course not, like the founding fathers obviously didn't mean, right? Marriage back then meant the union between a man and a woman. But now that you have progressive judges, they will interpret it differently. Another example, if you want, is Cenk Uygur on the Young Turks. He basically believes that the Second Amendment, which is basically allowing the American population to rise up against a tyrannical government, and thus they need to have weapons. Cenk Uygur believes only muskets can be allowed by the Second Amendment. You know, like, rise up against a tyrannical government with your muskets, because when it was applied back then, those were the weapons of war, and obviously they didn't think that assault rifles and stuff like that should be allowed by the people to have. So you can see that it does matter, the ideology of the judge. And this is why Trump winning the elections is such a hysteria, because he definitely has now the ability to elect one supreme judge. Well, I believe one of them retired, right? And he needs to get a replacement, so the United States president is going to nominate someone. Now, the person Trump is nominating is not a progressive. He is not a person that's going to interpret the Constitution through a progressive lens. And this is why all of this hysteria is coming from. They don't like this guy that is going to have a conservative interpretation of the Constitution. So all of a sudden we have women coming up accusing this guy of sexual assault. I believe there's 2 women that are accusing him, and apparently there's like another lady that can come up. And it's interesting that he is being accused of things he did 30 years in the past, right? Now, please excuse my skepticism. I know it's a dirty word nowadays, but why hasn't this woman come up until now? Oh, it's because she was afraid, right? Like, she was afraid to speak out. Okay, you know, I understand. But when all of the cameras in the entire world are on you now, when he has the backing of the United States President and his administration, you weren't afraid of come out until now. But all of a sudden, you know, like when all the cameras are on you, you find your bravery, like that is a little bit interesting for me, right? So this is, you know, like a tactic that the left constantly tries to employ. They try to employ it towards Donald Trump. A lot of women during the election campaign came out to say that Donald Trump molested them or assaulted them or whatnot. And you see that after the election is finished, like there aren't any other women that are coming up. Imagine that, right? It's just a coincidence. It is just astonishing that this is not happening anymore. And not to mention, Donald Trump didn't have women coming up before he got into politics. And it's the same with Kavanaugh. Like, I am willing to bet that once he gets into the Supreme Court, and I don't think he's going to get into the Supreme Court, you will not see any more women coming up. You will not see any more of these scandals. And I don't even know why they keep doing this tactic, because it clearly does not work. Like, the American people do not buy this shit, right? A couple of extremists buy this shit, of course. Like, they try to create a moral panic, because this is what it's all about. They try to create a moral outrage in order to have politicians justify why they're not okay with Kavanaugh joining the Supreme Court. They need a reason, right? Because otherwise, like, if they don't have this reason, they can't justify to their electorate why they vote against it. And unfortunately, you have some radicals like these gentlemen here who managed to chase Ted Cruz away from a restaurant because he is Republican, and I guess that is verboten. It is just a clusterfuck. It's just absolutely sad. What do you mean? Like, this is why I was crossing myself. Like, you're chasing away a senator because he believes in innocent until proven guilty. Like, he believes in the corners of the pillar stone of justice. Is this why you're doing it? Apparently, yes. Apparently, yes. And as I said, the Americans don't buy it. They didn't buy it with Donald Trump, and they don't even buy it when it comes to Hillary Clinton. Like, people keep forgetting that Hillary Clinton actually had this on her website during the elections, that you should believe the victim. You should always believe the victim. And then a couple of women came up saying that Bill Clinton raped them, right? And no one cared, right? But Hillary Clinton immediately removed the part with "you should always believe the victim," like that now is being left out. And it's like, it does. People don't care when it happens to the left. People don't care when it happens to the right. It is such a Fox outrage. It's almost like, you know, the opposite would be the president kissing babies, and you know, trying to get PR that way. That would be the opposite, the positive thing, when people just roll their eyes. It's like, oh, come on, you know. I personally, right, find it dubious when sex accusations come up during the election period. That is one of the time where my skeptometer is at max. It's like, they couldn't come up till now. This is the only time they pop up. Okay, so anyway, let's talk about it, because it's interesting. So you got this lady who claims that 30 years ago Mr. Kavanaugh sexually assaulted her, and she didn't want to go to the police. Turns out her lawyer was wearing a socialist t-shirt. It's just, you know, like, how more obvious can it be that this is political and it's not about you seeking justice or anything? But she comes up with a couple of rules, right? Because apparently there's going to be a testimony. There's going to be a Senate hearing, I understand. And she has 3 conditions to testify, right? Like, she wants to seek justice, but she's only going to testify if these 3 things are happening. Number 1, only members of the committee, no lawyers, can question her. Why? What? You pulled this out of your ass, didn't you? Like, what is it with this condition? Like, why no lawyers? Like, you're basically saying you don't like, you know, like, people who are trained in justice, People who are actually trained in order to handle these situations, don't question her. Okay, you know, like, fine. Kavanaugh cannot be in the room at the time. And this is very interesting because in the American Constitution, in the United States Constitution, it says that the accused have the right to face their accuser. But here's the thing, right? This is what the defendants of Mrs. Ford are saying. This is not a trial. This is not a court of law. And therefore, it is not mandatory. And here's the thing, right? The court of law is built around some principles. So the pillar stone of justice, right? One of them is that the defendant has the right to face, the accused has the right to face his accuser. And this is like a pillar of justice. What you're literally saying is that there is no justice to be found here. It is outside of the courtrooms. This has nothing to do with justice and law and fairness and anything like that. This is just a lynch mob. This is public outrage. Like, the justice doesn't have anything to do with social justice, right? This is the mob with torches and pitchforks. And it's like, okay, at least you're admitting that. You know, at least you're admitting that this has absolutely nothing to do with law and order. And this is just you trying to create a moral panic. But finally, this is one that completely baffled me, right? Like, this is the one where I, again, started to cross myself. I genuinely cannot understand how people can buy into this stupidity. Like it is just, okay, Kavanaugh should be questioned first. What the fuck do you mean that the accused should be questioned first? First you make the accusation, and then the accused defends himself. Even in communist systems, even in the USSR, right? Like, even in the, even with the witches back in the Inquisition when was around, you know, even when they wanted to burn some innocent girl, they would still bring the accusation forward, you're a witch, and then, you know, she would have to defend herself. This is just bewildering. Like, all around the world, you do not find something like this where the accuser is the one that's going to speak second. It's like, first you defend yourself, then I make the accusation. How does this work? In what world is this even legit? It's like me saying, yeah, you're a pedophile. And then you're having to go like, holy shit, okay, I need to defend myself in public, in front of the public opinion, right? Like, this is what it's about. You're defending yourself in front of the public. So you're going there, and you don't even know what exactly I'm accusing you of. Maybe you're thinking of some things that could be interpreted, where you know, and you're going to bring those up and talk about them. And after you have your say, then I come on and then I make the accusation. It's like, well, what if I accuse you of something completely different? What if I accuse you of some other shit? Now you can't defend yourself because you already had your say. Now, some people are saying, well, she made the accusation public, so he already knows what it's about. What if she brings something else? Do you know? Like, she can just accuse him of something else. Maybe he's going to accuse her of, I don't know, bestiality or some shit. Like, you can't know. This is why the accuser goes first. Like, and not only that, you know, like, I can somehow understand the second condition. Sorry, it wasn't intentional. It was just the second condition. Where basically she says, well, I cannot be in the room at the same time because, you know, being a victim of sexual assault, okay, fine. But under what reason you should question him first? What is the purpose of it? Like, please explain. It is absolutely bewildering, right? And not to mention, like, it's been 30 years. 30 fucking years. Do you remember what you were doing 30 years ago? Like, this is why in the justice system, if enough time passes, at least in my country, I don't know if it's the same in the United States, but even in the case of a murder, if enough time passes after the crime was committed, and we're talking about a lot of time, like 30 years, usually you can't accuse the person of the crime anymore. Right? Like, and the reason for this is, like, how can you gather evidence to defend yourself after 30 years? How can the person mount a defense after this amount of time has passed? Like, maybe, you know, I could say, first of all, it's very difficult to defend yourself against the accusation of rape because you have to prove a negative. But it's fine. You can technically do it in the court of law. This is how you do it. It's like, okay, V has raped me on the 24th of August, 2015. And I can produce a plane ticket and the receipt from a hotel room, and I can say, no, I could not have raped you because I wasn't in the country. Okay, I was somewhere else. So there is no physical way of me to have conducted the rape. Another way you can say, well, I have witnesses that I was at another party when you are saying that I have raped you. Like, you can somehow still manage to prove your innocence with an alibi, with evidence that you were in other places, with a video recording, for example, like maybe, you know, you went to a supermarket and there were some cameras that managed to pinpoint you at a certain hour when you've been accused of doing something else. So it's still possible. It's still plausible. But after 30 years, how can you even, like, people don't even know. Apparently this lady Ford said that she was pinned down and some other guy managed to get Kavanaugh off of her. But the other guy is saying that, no, that didn't happen. Right? So it is just absolutely bewildering. But anyway, this is purely hysteria. This is just trying to create a moral panic. And the only reason they're doing this, again, is to give the progressives, to give the Democrats a reason to vote against Kavanaugh. They're hoping, you know, to justify it somehow to their electorate, because otherwise, like, they don't have a reason. Like, why don't you want to vote for him? Well, I don't like his politics. That doesn't work, right? But now, oh, he's a sex pest. He is into sexual misconduct. He's a pervert. He's a creep. Of course, we don't want that person in the So they need some sort of reason. They need to manufacture some shit. This is what's about. I think he's going to make it. I think he's going to get it to the Supreme Court. And apparently there are rumors that, that there might be a second judge that might retire. I understood this again from a friend of mine. I need to verify it. But if a second judge has to retire, well, get ready to go through all of this shit again. Like, get ready for a repeat of this thing, because they just don't learn. They don't understand that it's not working with the American public. They don't give a shit. If they didn't care about Trump, they didn't care about Hillary Clinton, they're not caring about Kavanaugh, you're just embarrassing yourselves, the Democrats. Just stop it. Try something else. Try something new. Hire me. I will come up with some other idea of how to prevent judges who aren't progressives into getting into the Supreme Court. Just phone me up. I'll give you ideas. We can talk about it. This is just pathetic at this point.